Hello everyone, my name is Nathan. I'm the training coordinator for Deacon Ultimate. Welcome to my beautiful sunny backyard. It's a lovely day today. Basically this is just going to be the first online little training session we're going to do. Hopefully we're making these a regular thing. We're going to go through some skills and exercises and that kind of thing. But for this first session it's going to be real basic. Going to throw it all the way back to week 1. So most of you watching this would have been there when we went through the basics of the backhand throw and the basics of the flick throw. So basically going all the way back to that, going to run over all of that again just to start with, and then we can move on to some of the more complex stuff. So for each of the throws I'll kind of work through, so I'll work from kind of head to toe, going through all the different steps of it. We'll start with the backhand throw since that's generally the starting throw, that's the most common one. So I guess starting from the top, starting with your eyes, I guess. Generally you want to be looking where you're throwing, so not necessarily looking down at the disc. You want to be looking at your target. That always helps with hitting your targets. First and most important thing is generally your grip, so I'll come a bit closer for this. So for the backhand there's normally 2 main ways to grip the disc, both of which are pretty similar, but basically disc is going to sit nicely in that groove between your thumb and the rest of your fingers. So you'll have, for some people they'll have all of their fingers kind of curled underneath the rim of the disc and pressing against that inside edge nice and firmly, or for others you might see some people like a bit more feel of the disc, a bit more control, so they'll run one of those fingers along the front edge, and then in both of those scenarios the thumb will just sit, I don't know if you can see the little ridges on top of the disc, but yeah, for both of those grips the thumb will be pressed nice and firmly into those ridges, so you have a nice solid grip on the disc, nobody can pull it out, that kind of thing. Moving from the grip to the wrist, so once you've got that nice firm grip of the disc and you're comfortable with it, whether it's all fingers underneath or one on the front, the next big thing to kind of focus on is the wrist. So when generating power in your throw, the main area that's kind of going to generate that power is the snap of the wrist at the end of your throw. So all of our power is kind of coming through that little flick at the end. If you try and load up and throw a big throw just with your arm, you might get a little bit of distance, but it's not going to come out very nice. You won't get a lot of rotation on the disc, which means it won't fly as far. So really focusing on when you're loading up for that throw at the end of it, that snap of the wrist at the end is where all your spin's going to come from. This is going to come out and fly nicely. Going from the wrist to, I guess, the arm motion. So this one's kind of tricky at the start. A lot of people think, oh, I need to bring my arm out in kind of a round motion. So they try and throw around their body. Whereas generally with both of these throws, you kind of want to be going from back to front. So it's more of like a launching motion forward than a throwing around. So you're not moving your arm away from your body and then coming back. It's basically from behind you to in front of you. So cutting inside your body from the back all the way to the front. So bring it from the back here, throwing forwards, and then finishing with that snap of the wrist at the front of your body. So from the arm, I guess we'll move to the shoulders. So for the backhand throw specifically, when you're throwing, you want to be pointing your shoulder at your target. So if I'm throwing directly at the camera, I want to be facing this way, and I want my shoulder pointed directly at the camera right here. So when I'm throwing, so I'm going from the back to the front, and I'm releasing directly at the camera. Next stage, focusing on the torso. So torso is really important when you want to, sorry, itchy nose. Yeah, the torso is very important when you want to start generating lots of power. So another way to gain some power is by really engaging your core, because you will be able to gain some power from that twisting motion when you load up to throw. So really twisting your body and generating power through there. Going further down the body to your legs and your stance. For me, I'm right-handed, so I'll be pivoting off my left foot, like so. Or if you're left-handed, we'll be going the other way. But I will just explain the right-handed example. So for the backhand throw, pivoting off my left foot, which means it's going to stay planted. When I go to throw, I'm going to step across my body. So I'm going to pivot to the left, turn my body to the left, step across my body, so my shoulder's pointing at the camera, and then going through that throwing motion. So once again, I'm set, I'm nice and low, got lots of power through my legs. I'm going to pivot, step across my body, and load up for that throw. A couple of variations for the backhand. So, I guess adjustments. Depending on how it's releasing. So if you find you're throwing it and it's taking off up into the air, you might want to just kind of move your release point a little bit. So a lot of the variance you'll see in the throws is kind of to do with release points. So yeah, if you're throwing it, it's going up in the air, you might want to release lower or tilt the disc down a little bit more so it's not facing up like this. And same with the other thing. If you find you're throwing and you're throwing it into the ground, change your release point or release angle so you can tilt the disc up more or you can release higher up. If you find you're throwing it and the disc is kind of tipping either way, again you can, when you're kind of in that stance, you can adjust the angle of the disc, so tilt it up or down to kind of adjust which way it's going to release, how it's going to flatten out as it flies. So that's the basics of the backhand. Hopefully that all makes sense. We'll move on to the flick, or the forehand, which is the other common throw. A little bit different for this. So the grip for the flick is kind of different. We call it the pistol grip. So basically, make a gun with your hand, and what you're going to do is you're going to run those two fingers along the inside edge of the disc. So again, it's going to sit in that groove between the thumb and the fingers. But yeah, so running those two fingers along the inside edge of the disc, and again, you want that thumb on those ridges, locking it in nice and tight. So nice tight grip on the disc. Same thing again with the wrist. To generate power, a lot of that's going to come from that snapping of the wrist at the end of the throw. So really focusing on, at the start of the throw, tilt the wrist back so it's nice, cocked back towards your arm, and then snapping forward as you're releasing the throw. That's where all your spin's going to come from. Moving on from the wrist, so going to the arm. The flick throw, there is a little bit of a misconception. So a lot of people think, oh, we kind of want to keep your elbow by your side and just have this kind of motion. We've had issues with that in the past. Best way to kind of learn is you want to keep your elbow out nice and wide, away from your body. So it's kind of a cutting motion. So again, similar thing, you want to go from the back to the front, not out wide and around. You don't want to be throwing a big semicircle like this. You won't generate much power. But yeah, so bringing it from behind your body, you want to have your your elbow nice and separated from your body, from behind your body, and then bring it to the front and finish with that snapping motion of the wrist. Unlike the backhand, you don't want your shoulder pointed at the target. So for the flick, you want your chest pointed directly at the target. So once again, if I'm throwing at the camera, my chest should be pointed directly at the camera, and that's where I'm going to release and finish with my arm pointing at the camera, like so. Again, engaging your torso is going to help with generating power, because again, you're going to be twisting a little bit through your body. Legs wise, so with the backhand, you're stepping across the body. Again, I'm going to be pivoting off my left foot, but with the flick, rather than stepping across the body, you're stepping away from your body. So stepping the opposite way, away from the body, again, you want to get lots of power through your legs. So start nice and low, load up the legs, chest pointed at my target, and then cutting across your body with a throw. So from back to front and finishing with that nice snap of the wrist, pointing where I want to throw. Same thing, adjustments for the flick. So this one, people generally have a bit more difficulty with adjusting because it's quite an unnatural feeling, just kind of sitting the disc like that and then just kind of letting your wrist kind of drop. But adjustments for the flick are going to be same thing, adjusting how you're holding it with your wrist. So if I'm holding it up like this, it's going to release up into the air, or vice versa, it's going to release into the ground. And then if you find you're throwing it and it's tipping over, what you can do is, instead of holding the disc flat or up like that, just let your wrist drop and release with what we call an inside out grip, and that'll help it. It'll come out like this, but it'll start to flatten as it flies. Set a little challenge for the next couple of days. That's not really a challenge, but just something to practice. So I want to see everyone practicing it for the next couple of days, but also it's good to practice just whenever you can. It's something you can do anywhere. You just have a disc in your hand, you can do it in your house, you can do it wherever you want. But basically it's just practicing transitioning between that backhand stance and grip to the flick. So what you can do is you can start off just standing stationary, and what you want to do is you want to just, without touching it with your other hand, just transition between the flick and the backhand grip. So it's one swift motion. You're not adjusting your hand at all. It should just happen naturally. So you want to just move the disc to the other grip. So going from backhand, forehand, just working on speeding up that transition between the two throws, so you're able to throw quicker and adjust your position quicker. And then once you've got the hang of that just hand transition, then you can start to work in the step. So starting in the backhand, so I'm ready to throw a backhand, then I'm going to transition and step across for the flick. So you don't have to throw it, you can just practice going back and forth. Flick, go back to backhand, flick, and then stepping across, working on. A really good skill to have is being able to quickly transition from one side to the other to get around your defender or to hit an open throw. If somebody's cutting to the side you're not on, you can quickly transition, that kind of thing. So it's an important skill to have just for any level really, especially if you want to become a handler. That quick movement is essential with the disc. So that's, I'll call it a challenge. That's the challenge for the next couple of days. I'll put something else up that's a bit more complex and we'll have a proper challenge involved in the next couple of days. But yeah, thanks for checking in. Welcome to week one of Nathan's online course. Yeah, hope everyone's staying active at home and staying safe.